Photography has never been more accessible, yet many photographers feel more uncertain about the future than ever before. Welcome to Camera Shake Podcast, where we explore the art, craft, and the business of photography. 20 years ago, if you wanted to get serious about photography, you bought a camera. Today, billions of people carry one in their pocket. Smartphones have transformed the way we capture, edit, and share images, but what does that mean for the future of photography? Are dedicated cameras becoming obsolete? Has technology made us better photographers? And in a world where everyone has a camera, what actually makes a great photograph? Well, we're going to find out right after this. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the members of our Camera Shake Photography Podcast community who support the show through buymeacoffee.com/camera shake. So if you'd like to help support future episodes, you'll find the link at buymeacoffee.com/camera shake or there in the description. And of course, if you want to look cool whilst you're on a shoot or editing, check out our Camera Shake merchandise store for t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more over at camerashakepodcast.com. Links for everything, as I mentioned, are in the description. Now, my guest today has spent decades at the intersection of photography, technology, and storytelling. As a journalist, photographer, author, and creator, he's had a front row seat to one of the biggest transformations our industry has ever seen. He's covered the rise of digital photography, witnessed the smartphone revolution from the very beginning, and has helped countless photographers see the world differently through his travel photography series, Photowalks TV. Please give it up for none other than Jefferson Graham. Jeff, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for that really nice intro.
Cool. Well, 20
Getting this
years.
to history. Here I am. Yeah.
Well,
20 years ago.
absolutely. This is, actually, to be honest, before we dive into it, this is one of the most fascinating things I think about photography, or one of the things that fascinates me the most is just the history. It feels like in not a lot of time, a lot has happened and it's never ending. I think that's one of the most interesting parts when it comes to photography.
Yeah. The iPhone was introduced in January 2007. And that's when the world changed, right?
Yeah,
And now, of
exactly.
course, the camera was mediocre when it came out, but it got better and better and better and better. And now I produce a weekly TV show on an iPhone. All the Apple keynote events are shot on an iPhone now, very differently because they put a lot of million-dollar accessories into their production that I do not have access to. But you can do some pretty amazing things with that little phone that's in your pocket that has 4 lenses on it. Well, 4 focal lengths. You know, most photographers have always been running around with the 2470 and a 7200 and blah blah blah. You got all that on an iPhone and a Galaxy and a Pixel. Plus, you have a 13 millimeter. I mean, it's amazing.
It's wild, isn't it? I mean, if you think about it, 20 years ago, if somebody wanted to get serious about photography, the first thing they would do would be to buy a camera. Today, we buy a smartphone. Will smartphones eventually kill photography, do you think?
I don't know. I still think that there's something really beautiful about a, mirrorless camera and a 7200 millimeter lens and shooting a portrait that just doesn't compare. Now, my gist is travel photography. Now, for travel photography, there's no reason to bring the big camera with you anymore. It just isn't. You can get great stuff. I have taken it to Paris and to Japan and to Spain and Portugal and Italy, and I can't tell you that if I had brought a EOS R or my Sony A7 IV, that the stuff would look that much better. I know that I would have had a bad back and I would have had to carry the stuff around with me all day. But if I had a paid shoot, like a modeling shoot or something like that, I'd probably want to still use the big camera. And I think I would still want to use the big camera 5 years from now, too.
Are we living through the biggest change in photography since the invention of digital cameras or of the camera itself? Do you think?
More people are taking photos today than have ever taken them before. Because it's in their pocket. Because I mean, let's face it. When I started in 1968 with my Honeywell Pentax Spotmatic, I could buy a roll of 24 film, right? A roll of film that with 24 exposures or 36 exposures, period, that's it. Every frame cost me money, right? And then once you finished the film, then you had to get it processed. It just was a very expensive, thing that most people would take 1 or 2 shots. Now, it doesn't cost anything, and they just shoot like crazy. I don't know that that's a good thing, but that's what we're doing now.
It's an interesting aspect, actually, because I had a very similar conversation with my 15-year-old daughter the other day, who's really getting into like Instax, photos. And we were talking about, but so she has basically a digital camera, and she wanted to buy an Instax printer to print out images. And so she was like looking at different printers, there's printers, similar printers by Canon and a variety of other companies. And so I was just doing the calculation for her as to how much each photo would actually cost her, and you could really tell like she didn't quite really understand the concept of each photo having a price tag. It was to me, that was amazing to see.
And what was it, $3 a print?
Well, it's basically, yeah, I mean, it depends on, what brand you're going with. If you're going with Instax, for example, the images are it's about $1 a print, give or take. Canon is about half that, give or take.
Okay.
Uh, so, but it's still, I mean, for a 15-year-old, that can, add up to
Yeah.
quite a substantial amount of money. Um,
But I bet for her there's nothing like a print
well,
as opposed to looking at it on a screen, right?
exactly, and, so I was like, I was actually super thrilled about the fact that she was thinking along those lines of actually creating something tangible, something physical to hold in her hand, because she's 15. She's never grown up with a printed photo, you know, other than
Yeah.
living with me and, knowing about the fact that there are prints. She would have never really been exposed to photography in that way, so I find it really interesting, not, I'm hoping it's not just a fad, a teenage fad.
You don't have prints hanging on the wall?
Yeah, we
I
do.
don't.
I mean, yes, absolutely, we do. That's what I mean. It's like the only way that she would have been in contact with that is by kind of watching what I'm doing. But of course, when a 10-year old or a 7 or 8-year-old look at their parents, they go like, I don't want to do that. It's like old fashioned stuff. We've got
Yeah.
phones. you know.
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, good luck finding all those pictures that have been taken. I'm sure she's taken thousands of them, and, that's the biggest I think it's the biggest obstacle to anybody is finding their stuff on their phone, right?
yeah, absolutely, it's completely impossible, actually. Yeah. Um. So I mean, why do you think? Why is it that smartphones are now the primary camera for most people? What happened?
Very simple, because it's in our pocket, because it's there, because you could just reach for it. Walk into a restaurant sometime and look around the room and look at all the people staring at their phones. I mean, it's pretty sad, they used to actually, like, read papers and magazines, remember those? And now they're just staring at the phone, and it's always there, it's always on. From the moment they wake up to the end of the day, they are using their phone. So, if you can get great and not just photos, right? Not just photos, our bills, our receipts, our note-taking, it's all done via the camera. In fact, you go to a restaurant and they won't even give you a menu. They give you a little QR code, and then you have to pull out the camera and take a picture of it, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So it's just always there.
yeah. I mean, what is it in terms of photography? Is there any aspect of photography that where you would say, well, smartphones just do that better than regular cameras?
Well, I think most people don't realize that every picture taken on an iPhone and comparable phones are 9 shots. Okay? It's a multiple exposure of 9 pictures that are merged together in a millisecond. 3 of them overexposed, 3 of them underexposed, 3 of them normal, and just merged. That's why they're always in focus. That's why they're always, perfectly lit or so yeah, not really, but for the most people, they look so much better than they would look if they picked up a camera and started fiddling with the menu. Right? Everything is perfect. Not really, but everything looks pretty perfect.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like it looks pretty perfect, but it's not really. So, I mean, based on that, what is it? I mean, to anybody who's used to using the smartphone to take pictures, maybe they're wondering, whether to uh, to invest into an actual camera, which and they're not cheap. What is it that cameras still do better than smartphones?
Well, I was in Paris, and I was testing out the Samsung Galaxy S. Is it 26? Whatever the latest one is, the top of the line, and I'm looking at the pictures, and the colors are so rich, and I said, "Wow, this is great," and then I'd look up, and real world looked nothing like it, okay? They had goosed all the colors in a way, and there were I couldn't find it. Apparently, there is a setting to get it back to normal. I wasn't making it work. So, a camera is going to do a much better job. Now, I live in a beach town where if I was to go down and take pictures of people right now in front of the beach, I'd have a blue sky. Even if there wasn't a blue sky, there'd be a blue sky, and the phone would make it a blue sky, whereas if I shut on my Sony, it would be white.
Yeah.
And, if you're interested in real world, what we're actually seeing, then you've got the camera. Now, I don't know if you caught the new, announcements that Apple made this week about what they're doing to the camera app. So there's a new thing called reframe. So if you put your picture of your subject in the middle, and afterwards you say, "Nah, just move them over. Move them that way, move them that way." Which is either good or bad. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm probably against it, but I'll probably use it. How about you?
Yes, it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because it's like a catch-22 type of situation because what manufacturers are doing is they're looking at, what photographers would typically be doing in terms of editing a picture, and they're basically saying, "Well, now you don't have to do that anymore. We'll just making it so that it's already done." But and of course that comes from I think that comes from a perspective of we want to help you make things easier. But I think what it takes away is choice and decision making on behalf of the person who takes the picture, you know? And so I think it's one of these things where I always feel like when you're a little kid and your mom and your dad do everything for you and they make all the decisions, and when you become a teenager.
Helicopter parent. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then, when you turn into a teenager, you go like, "Well, I don't want you to make all these. I want to make my own mistakes." And that's kind of how I feel about that. I don't want Apple or Samsung or anybody else to make these decisions for me. I want to make those decisions. Um, and that's kind of that's how I always feel. I always feel like, yeah, I always feel like Apple or Samsung or whichever manufacturers it is, they're trying to be these helicopter parents to me as a photographer, and I just I'm too rebellious for that, I think. That's the thing.
Well, the thing about the iPhone is everything's automatic, everything's great until it's not, and there are ways to go in there and tweak, and there's apps you could use. Halide is the app for the, anti-AI person, and Blackmagic for video. You can tweak to your heart's content. It's just you have to get around the automatic tools, and you can do some pretty great work. I mean, I'm very happy with what I've been able to produce over the last I've done 80 episodes of Photowalks, and I think I've come up with some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, there are people who, really create art with an iPhone. That's like Russell, for example, is a really good example. There are people who really use that tool to create art, and I'm not saying it's not possible. I just feel somehow I feel it's much easier with an actual camera, but maybe that's just because I'm
Okay,
older and frustrated.
Russell Brown, who you just, name dropped, is the world's greatest iPhone photographer. There's nobody better. So let's just give him the proper due. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, correct. Absolutely, I totally agree. Also, a generally nice guy. Um, w- why do you think are younger photographers less interested in dedicated cameras? Why do you think that is?
But I think the trend is that they're interested in retro point and shoot cameras that have had a comeback, right? They've had a
Yes.
comeback, and I think they like walking around with cameras. Um, it's a lot easier to take pictures on a point and shoot camera than it is to pick up a used 5D, Canon 5D or something like that, and to learn the menu and the M and the AV and the TV and like and the P and what's the difference between a P and an A, and it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. You can get amazing, you can get great photos and video, particularly, but it takes a lot of time. And with the phones, it's just so much easier.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, it's funny you mentioned point and shoot cameras. In fact, my daughter, for her 15th birthday, she actually wanted a point and shoot camera, which I was really surprised by. I'm like, really? That's odd. And then I also found out that it is a trend in that age group. So
And which one did you buy her?
I got her a Kodak because she picked one out that
Really?
was, yeah, because why not? You know,
Uh-huh.
I'm nostalgic when it comes to that. Um,
Okay.
it's a cool little camera. Can't complain about that.
Yeah,
But
and there's people who like to shoot on Super 8 millimeter movies too, and they think that looks cool, and it's just the whole, looks, and you probably
yeah,
could have explained to her that you could get that same look, um, through simulations on other cameras, but, it's easy to
yeah,
just pull it out, it looks cool. I always liked the way it looked when I held the camera in my hands. I always liked feeling it against my face. I liked
yeah,
the looking through the viewfinder. I felt that, I mean, wouldn't I love to take this iPhone and hold it right up and look through there? I would love that, and because
yeah.
there's many times I just can't see what I wanna see, So I love looking through the viewfinder. There's a lot to be said for cameras.
Oh, I totally agree. This is the thing. I can't. I mean, despite the fact that most modern cameras now have beautiful screens on the back of them, I can't get myself to take pictures like that because I like to look through the viewfinder and I like how my world all of a sudden sort of almost like diminishes into this little box. I like it's almost like escapism. That's how I sort of look at it. It's just a thing that I like. It's a little bit like when you sit in the cinema and you watch the trailers and have the room lights on, and then just before the main feature comes up, all the lights dim and the whole room disappears into darkness, and all you see is the screen. It's that sort of thing where you go, "Whoa, okay, now it's happening." you know?
Yeah, you could also frame everything a lot better when your eye is on the viewfinder,
Yes,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. And then of course on the flip side, you could argue that smartphones have in a way democratized photography.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Yeah, they don't have to say, "Oh, I need to take a class. I need to take a lesson. I don't know what I'm doing." I mean, I do hear that from a lot of people. I wish I knew what all the buttons meant, and, I don't think Apple has done a good job in the camera app where you swipe it and it goes photo, then it says spatial, and nobody has any idea what the hell they're talking about. I know that they have to spend $3,000 to get the Vision Pro. I don't know what it costs in England, but
Yeah.
the VR headset, and these are photos specifically made for that headset. Uh, but I guarantee you that 99% of the iPhone universe doesn't have that headset.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing. I had the opportunity to try out Canon's telescopic lenses at the photography show a couple of months ago, and it was a really amazing experience because the way you experience is with a VR headset. And what they had done, and as I've mentioned it on the podcast before, what they had done was they filmed. It was almost like a flyover shot over coral reefs underwater. So they built this custom underwater casing for this, which I guess was an R5 or whatever it was, with this telescopic stereoscopic lens, I should say, and it was an amazing experience because it literally it felt surreal. It really felt like you were in it. It was a great experience, and I immediately thought that's really cool because not only could you film, let's say, even if it's just something like a family occasion, and then when you watch that back, it really feel like you're there in 3D space with maybe with loved ones that no longer are alive or something like that. It's just a completely different experience. And I immediately thought like, oh, you know what I would want to do is I want to use that and create like a film noir detective movie sort of thing um, in 3D film stairs come where you yourself as the viewer have to find the clues. That would be cool, you know?
I am not knocking VR at all, and I'm not knocking the work that you could see on the headsets. I'm just knocking the fact that most people don't have it,
Yeah,
and
oh,
I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
think I think when Apple puts this stuff in there, it's confusing people. They have no idea what they're talking about. But, yeah, I love watching those big widescreen movies as much as you do. I love going to IMAX movies, though a bunch of people, when the Vision Pro came out, they said, "Oh, I'm buying it, and I'm gonna do my photo editing on it." You gotta be kidding me. You can't wear that thing for more than a half hour, so
Yeah, that's correct, and I think that's the biggest drawback is because these things are so huge and cumbersome, you know, that's like and also, you kinda look like a bit of an idiot, to be honest, you know, just sitting there with this thing on. So, I don't know,
yeah,
maybe
maybe
maybe,
one day.
yeah, maybe implants, maybe optical implants,
Uh,
something like that.
well, the glasses that you're wearing now, their dream is that you'll wear those and watch movies on them, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I do like sh I like shooting video on my Meta Ray-Bans.
did you how does actually, that's a question. So, I mean, these are not video glasses, but,
Yeah.
how how does I mean, what's the end result with the Meta video glasses? Is it actually any good? What do you think?
Surprisingly good. They're vertical videos, and I think that if you have 2 eyes and you have 2 cameras on your glasses, you should be able to get horizontal, but that's me. But my best use case is you go on a roller coaster and they say, "No phone," and I say, "I got a GoPro." They say, "No GoPro," and you say, "Okay, fine." Beep, and you turn on your glasses. I'll show them, and I got some really nice footage of the roller coaster. So,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. Things like that, where
But at the
people
mo
you know are gonna where you know they're gonna kick you out, and then you
Yeah.
know they're gonna tell you no, so you turn on your glasses. There you go.
So, do they only shoot, vertical video at this point?
Only shoots vertical,
Right.
and I'm
Right.
guessing you feel about vertical as I do.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, it's not my preferred format. I can see the relevance of it and all the rest of it, you know, and of course from a marketing perspective, blah blah blah. I th- when Instagram first brought out stories, so this goes back, I guess, maybe
Many
10 years.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
many years. Hey, let me just jump in real quick to tell you about the amazing sponsor of this episode, Platypod. Platypod offers innovative camera support systems designed to unleash your creativity. With their stable, versatile, and portable solutions, you can capture stunning shots like never before. And I'm not just saying that. As the host of the Camera Shake podcast, I can personally vouch for Platypod's incredible products. They've become an integral part of the show. In fact, I'm surrounded by various Platypod products holding up lights, cameras, microphones, and so on. It's really helped to transform the way I make the show and the way I shoot at home, in the studio, and on location. But don't just take my word for it. Explore Platypod's website at www.platypod.com to discover their range of products, including the Platypod Extreme, Platypod tripod heads, and the brand new handle, of course. Make sure to follow Platypod on Instagram and Facebook at Platypod Tripods for exclusive updates, tips, and giveaways. By choosing Platypod, you're not only investing in your photography, but you're also supporting the Camera Shake Photography Podcast. Thanks again to Platypod, our amazing sponsor. Platypod, where innovation never sleeps.
I am amazed at the amount of effort that people put into their Instagram reels and all, I mean, they're shooting it like it's a movie with multiple shots. I don't know what they get out of it. It's a lot of work. Instagram doesn't pay you money for doing it. YouTube does, so I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different landscape. Back then, nobody was doing that, you know. So really, at the very, very beginning, I remember reading about the announcement of stories. And I think I was in Germany at the time, I think on holiday or something like that. And then they launched it, and I installed the latest version on Instagram and I had it on my phone. And then within the next few weeks, I could see what people were doing, and it was predominant. It was 95% stills at the time. You know, where people just take a snapshot,
Yeah.
and I kind of thought, well, no, but you can do video on it, you know. So that was just the thing. Um, so if everybody has a camera in their pocket now by way of a smartphone, Why aren't we all producing great photographs? What's the
Well,
problem?
because most people don't take the time to frame it correctly. Most people don't read their camera settings. They don't know about the grid. They don't know about the leveler. Number one problem. I don't know what how things are for you, but people holding the camera like that, like that, the horizons are awful. They take pictures in the dark of people, and they don't think about lighting them. Most people don't take the time. That's my take.
Yeah. What separates a snapshot? Or let's say, what's the difference between a snapshot and a photograph?
A snapshot is a quick boom. Hey, stand there. Let me take your picture. A photograph is somebody who thinks about it, positions you, maybe poses you a little bit, maybe puts you into the light, maybe lights it, actually puts some work into it.
Hmm. It seems like, no matter whether you look, I mean, that's not necessarily only true for smartphones, where, every 6 months, every 12 months or something, like, every manufacturer announces some groundbreaking new development in the technology, whether it's more lenses or better processors or this or that, But I mean, the same thing is really true for the camera, for camera companies as well, where everybody, tries to top everybody else with, it used to be megapixels, now it's, then it was autofocus, then now it's whatever it is now. Um, but has technology actually made us better photographers?
Oh, no, it's made, photography more accessible.
Yeah.
That's what I
Do you
think.
think? Yeah, I mean, do you think that's do you think it's brought more people into like into reach for companies like Canon or Nikon? Do you think the technology aspect of it, is that the main draw for youngsters to
I don't
from?
I don't think the Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, Olympus can ever reach the smartphone photographer. I just don't. I don't think they're gonna start on a smartphone and graduate to a camera. I think you've got the dedicated photographer community that are into cameras and lenses and, higher resolution and all that stuff. That's their audience. I don't see it growing from smartphones. Do you?
I don't know. I've often wondered that. I've often wondered whether the smartphone is the gateway drug, into photography, because it might be. It might be, or um, because it's difficult for me to sometimes get an objective perspective of that, because I'm just too old, for that in general. I grew up with film, um, and my journey into photography went that way. It's sort of smartphones just happened along the way at some point. Those a thing. But yeah, sometimes I wonder if that's if that's a thing, or sometimes I wonder if we're just too obsessed with gear, just in general nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. The number one question I always get about every episode I do is, "What was that thing you were holding there? What was that thing? Why were you doing that?" Yeah, so people are really into gear because if you buy more gear, you're a better photographer. I don't think so. But, the same token, I was talking to my brother and I was telling him about, we were talking about the numbers on the screen that say point 0.5, 1x, 2x, and I was telling him, like, don't use that, and he had no idea what those numbers were. He just opened up the camera, and that was it, and he never shifted it. I think that's probably a lot of people. They had no idea what's in their app. If they took the time, they could get some way better photos. It you know, to actually learn what's in there, but I think that's been the problem generally. Do you know all the buttons on your TV? Do you know all the what's on the menu screen? The tech companies have this problem of just throwing too many things in. If we go back to In-N-Out Burger, which is in California, their brilliance is that they have a hamburger and a cheeseburger. That's
Yeah.
about it on the menu, you know? And when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, he cut down the line to four things, right? 4 iMacs or something like that. And now it's just bloated. There's just too many options, and, people want simplicity. That's my take there.
Yeah, and that's true because, even on my camera, I don't, I I use 10% of what I mean, that because that thing is basically a spaceship with a lens on it, ultimately.
Right.
Um,
What camera do you have? You would
um,
what?
I use it for like a Nikon Z8 is probably my main camera that I use for, portraits and commercial stuff and things. Um, but there's, you know, in many ways, there's really no real need for that. To give you an example, I used to shoot for the longest time. I used to get a lot of stick for that, by the way. I used to shoot commercial work for the longest time on a D750, which was not a mirrorless camera. It was a DSLR, and it was what they used to call what do they used to call it? Like a semi-professional body, right? It wasn't a D800 series or whatever. And I used to shoot that thing for 11 years, and I shot everything with that: billboard campaigns, absolutely everything. Um, and I remember how many people I can't even remember how many people used to give me stick for that, I was like, but I'm like, "Well, but I don't I mean, I don't really see the point," I like that camera, I understand it, it feels really comfortable with my hands, I know it inside out, it's just a tool, it's like your favorite hammer if you're a carpenter, you know?
Right.
Um, and I resisted change for the longest time, and then it was only really when video became more and more, part of what I do, instead I eventually changed to, to mirrorless and embrace that. And of course I can see the advantages. Yeah, yeah. The Z8 is basically it's like a speedboat, compared to like a what do they call it? Like a little paddle boat or something like that.
Like a
Yeah.
canoe?
Yeah, like a canoe or even one of these pedal boats that you pedal with or something, It's like, of course, it's a completely different thing. And it has many advantages, but it doesn't really it hasn't changed the quality of my work at all. I don't think it's any different. Um, you know, in actual fact,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, what are they gonna do? I mean, what are they gonna do? What could you add? I guess, like the Sony A9 came out and had a faster shutter, right? And you could take pictures faster. What else are you gonna do? What else? A bigger megapixel? I've shot on that Sony I'm sorry, the Fuji. I
mhm,
forget the model name of it. The
the
one that's 100
GFX series.
megapixel?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
GFX
I
series.
shot on those. Yeah, with the 50 megapixel with 50 megabyte files or
Mhm.
bigger. Those stuff look good. It looked good. I guess if you're shooting billboards, go for it. But, I don't know. I don't know what else they can do.
Yeah, and even billboards, because I used to get a lot of stick for that for using a D750 to shoot billboard campaigns. Which the D750, to be fair, it's a 24.5 megapixel camera, so it's plenty of resolution for a billboard, to be honest. Because let's face it, who's gonna look at a billboard from this close? Its
Right.
viewing distances, is a thing. So, and I remember saying to people like, I could shoot a billboard campaign with a 6 megapixel sensor. It doesn't like this makes zero sense to me. So yeah, so I endured that for about 11 years, and then I switched finally. I gave in. That's the thing. Um, but do you think like with now that everybody has a smartphone and we could just whip it out and take pictures left, right, and center, and also there seems to be no limitation when it comes to storage, so it doesn't matter whether we take 1,000 pictures, over one. Um, do you think that it's a visual storytelling per se is almost becoming a lost art?
I think the people that focus on visual storytelling are doing a great job. I think most people are not. I mean, you go to any situation. I know you're in England. I don't know where you are in England, but let's say you went to Piccadilly Circus. Ev What do you think? 75% of the people are just gonna be holding these phones up. I don't know what they're doing with the pictures. I don't know, we all hold the phone up, but most of the photos stay inside, and, so I think that in general, people should spend a little bit more time thinking about what they're doing. Maybe they are, maybe I'm wrong, but, my favorite is the people that go up and down the street with their GoPro cameras, and they're holding the GoPro camera up. Uh, what's happening with that footage? Is that showing up anywhere? 'Cause, are they taking the time to go through it? You know, e e editing video editing is the most cumbersome of all the, visual arts. It just takes a long time. And I know that most people do not take the time to do it. And everybody's trying to come up with a way to do video editing without editing, AI to make the choices for you. I haven't seen it yet.
And I think everybody, even in the professional field, has made the mistake of vastly overshooting when it comes to editing, when it comes to video. I've certainly made that mistake many times. And through experience, I've taught myself that the more I shoot, the more I'm going to have to at least view the footage. And you know, if I just plan it better, you know, and pay more attention to the pre-production, actually figure out what it is that I need, I can shoot the spec, and then everything's quicker after that. The whole edit, it's just it's whatever. You're right. It's like if you're shooting for 2 hours nonstop, then yeah, nobody's ever going to see that footage.
Yeah, the worst thing is you do an interview with somebody, and it's not bad, but they're talking and they're talking and they're talking, and you don't wanna be rude and stop them. But I'm gonna have to sit here and watch this hour-long interview which I'm gonna use a little snippet from, right? Yeah, but there's
Yeah,
no way around that. You have to be
absolutely.
nice.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, Hey, let's talk a little bit about your travel photography. And of course, people know
Yes.
you from Photowalks TV. What inspired Photowalks TV in the first place?
I was doing tech videos for USA Today.
Hmm.
And, one day I was staying in the North Beach section of San Francisco, and I had somebody shooting with me. I said, "Let's do a travel video about my favorite part of San Francisco," which was North Beach. And I just loved the whole experience. I loved meeting the people, getting to interview them, showing off what I loved, and then putting my pictures into the video, and the pictures look better when they're moving along and they have music behind them, and I thought it was a cool thing, and then, um, everybody travels somewhere and has to figure out, "Well, where do I go to get that key shot?" And I said, "Well, what if there was a show that actually told you before you went, here's where to go." And so that was sort of the genesis of that, and then after, 3 decades at USA Today, there was a buyout program. I was able to leave and be paid to leave, and that was a good time to really focus on the show and see what I could do with it. That was 2018. Actually, I left in 2021. So I left in 2021. In 2024 By 2024, I was able to sell the show to a streaming network and go from YouTube to a national streaming network, and that's Scripps News. And the first thing they said was, "Okay, now we're gonna expand it to a 22-minute show," which is a half-hour show, "and you'll do it in 3 blocks." And I said, "Okay." Great. And so that was a new experience. So I had to figure out the timing is really hard. I mean, this is the hardest thing when you're doing a TV show is, am I at 21 minutes or 22 minutes? Or am I at 23 and I have to cut a minute out? But anyway, so they gave me 6 shows and then they liked them and they ordered 30 more and then they ordered 26 more. And here I am in 2026, still writing them out.
Wow. So how do you tend up when you're actually shooting it? Like how do you know where you are inside of the show? Because you haven't edited anything yet at that point.
I have not edited anything. I have a list of all the places I wanna photograph when I go somewhere, and I have interviews set up in places and you don't know how anything's gonna work out. If I'm good, sometimes I will go into the hotel room and look at the footage at the end of the night, but sometimes I can't because I'm focused on what I'm doing the next day. So it's hard. It's just a hard process, but, the show comes alive in the edit. And I edit in Final Cut Pro on my MacBook 16-inch computer.
Yeah, same. Actually, exactly the same. That's how I edit the
Yeah.
podcast or just about anything that I do. Yeah. Um, I mean,
Also, you don't know what your pictures are. You don't know how good they are, and you have to go through them, and I go through them in Lightroom on the computer. I could pick out a few on the phone, but it just doesn't really cut it. Now, one thing I do at the end of each episode is I do, photo tips, and I so the idea is to give people some idea on some of the photos that I took for that show and how I got them and where I stood and what app I might have used and, like the classic is if I was to do a shot of the tube in England and stand in front of it, but shoot at a slow shutter so that I'm sharp, but the tube is totally out of focus. I did that in New York, and so I talked about what app I used to do that and what shutter speed. Believe it or not, I could get a shutter speed on a phone. I could actually do it. So there's a lot of things you could do that look pretty cool. And so I try to pick out the photos that I'm going to talk about for the C segment, which is the photo tip segment while I'm on the
Wait,
road.
you've literally done virtually hundreds of videos.
I've done, yeah, hundreds of videos. Yes, 80 full-length episodes of Photowalks and probably 1,000 videos in 20 years.
Yeah. How do you come up like, what's the process? How do you come up with the next location? Is that just how do you figure out where to go next?
Well, first of all, I have a sponsor, Best Western Hotels, and they called me in January and said, "Okay, you're going to Indiana, you're going to Kentucky, you're going to," yeah, they told me where I was going, which is I said, "Fine, I'm happy to." And then I work with some tourism boards that will invite me to come visit, and then I will do local things around my neighborhood, but I'm booked through the end of the year. So it's like nonstop through the end of the year, and then I will start figuring out what I'm gonna do in 2027.
Are we gonna see you in London at any point soon?
I'd sure love to. Hopefully in 2027.
Oh, fantastic. Um,
Yeah, I just did Paris and, Torino, Italy, and Lyon, France.
actually, and this is just asking for a friend. Is the Paris episode out already?
It will be out in September.
Oh, damn it. I'm going to Paris next weekend. Dang it.
I have previous Paris episodes. I have 5 of them that are up, from
Right.
a
Okay.
previous trip, but the new ones will be out in the fall.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we'll definitely be checking it out. Um, now, with so many destinations that you've traveled and done photo walks in, um, what is it that literally hundreds of photo walks have taught you about how to see the world in photographic sense?
Get out of your car, walk around. I mean, it's just like it's pretty simple. You don't see most of the things when you're flying by, but what so many people have told me who have joined me, who are locals, was I never knew that was here. I never noticed it because we're walking around slowly with our camera eye looking for things that now start to see things that are really interesting. And that could be anywhere. People have said, "Why don't you go to a dumpy town and see what you can pull off in showing up?" And you don't wanna go to a place and say, "Well, you're known for being a horrible town, but I'm gonna show that there's actually pretty stuff there." But you could find it anywhere. You could find interesting things anywhere you go, I would basically say.
Why is it that some photographers, and again, just asking for a friend here, why
Yes.
why why is it that some photographers come home from amazing locations with mediocre images? Like, what is the number one reason for that?
Very simple, very simple. They took all the pictures between 12 and 4 in the afternoon, right?
Right.
But if you go out in the morning, if you go out later in the day, there will be a drastic difference to your photos. It's just classic, it's standard. I guarantee I can remember standing in Paris at the Trocadero, which is right across from the Eiffel Tower at 6 a.m. in the morning, and it was magical, magical. And, I was just watching the season finale of Hacks, which is a TV show on HBO Max. I don't know if you get it over there, but they went to Paris, and wouldn't you know that all the shots were done at nighttime? All the shots were done at nighttime. Why is that?
Wow.
Yeah, the Eiffel Tower sparkles at nighttime.
Yeah, yeah.
It it goes up and down. The lights go around. I mean, there's a huge difference. Or the people that take all the pictures in Las Vegas at 2 in the afternoon, the neon lights look pretty cool at 7 PM.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Vegas is where we first met, not too long ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What month? In April. In April.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And
A
it's a fantastic
and you
town.
were did you go out shooting at nighttime?
No, I did go out at nighttime just to get experience. I didn't really have a lot of time, but I went to experience it. Um, and I love deserts. That's the other thing. I love deserts. So it's naturally I think, a destination that will come back to, just to do photos. Maybe when it's not NAB time, or when there's nothing else going on. So
So
definitely.
so a quick little plug, I just did a video for Kelby One, the photo instruction site, and, it was all about the art of photographing Las Vegas, and I did all my favorite spots all over Las Vegas in it, and one spot that, is really cool is a little road right off Paradise Road. It's near the airport. You pull right out, you park, and it's all sand. It's all sand with the casinos out in the
Oh,
distance. It's
nice.
everything you would dream of for a Las Vegas shot, and it's not hard to find.
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? It's about knowing a place to the point where 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 all of these little nook and crannies are. Where
Yeah.
and it's one of the things I've learned about London. I mean, I've lived in and around London for the last 30 years nearly, um, and of course, the city has changed dramatically in that time. We didn't have any skyscrapers when I first moved here at all. And now there are whole sections of the city that have completely metamorphized, whatever the word is, into like a modern capital city. It's interesting. The one thing though that's really changed in that time is that there are now more and more sort of what I call Instagram locations. Where you literally have queues of people trying to take the same photo. Um, d- and I always wonder, like, has Instagram or social media, has that actually changed how people travel nowadays?
Well, it's certainly hurt, a lot of locations in Europe that are getting overrun by tourists that want that one shot that aren't gonna get the shot that's any different from anybody else.
Yeah.
Uh, it's weird. I just came back from Indiana where there was an alley that's called Selfie Alley, and, that was their way of bringing people to the alley, which is not a bad idea, but, I don't know how good any of the pictures will be. The other thing, I you probably don't have this, but when I go on road trips and it says, "Welcome to Arizona, welcome to Nevada, welcome to whatever," some people are really good about knowing that people are going to pull over and stand in front of the sign. And other highways, they don't care that these people are about to be killed, that they will pull over. But some people will actually make, meridians in there that they can pull into, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, it's a funny thing 'cause, I'm wondering, like, whether, like, whether photographers nowadays, whether they're chasing locations instead of photographs, where it's like, there's a good example. Well, London has a number of those spots. One is right next to Westminster Bridge, is on the opposite side of the House of Parliament of Big Ben. And there's one particular spot where you basically you walk down underneath the bridge, and you can see this stone doorway basically, and you have Big Ben with the bridge on the side and perfectly framed inside of this stone frame, door frame essentially. Um, and of course, as you can imagine, there are queues and queues and queues of people wanting to get the same shot, which I think probably in the past would have been a fairly hidden, not necessarily hidden secret, but it would be like you'd really have to know the place to know where that was. And now, of course, it's like it's
I
like a
think it's
tourist attraction.
okay. Now, when you were in Las Vegas, did you go to the Welcome to Las Vegas sign?
Actually, didn't.
Okay.
Actually, didn't.
But you know what I'm talking
I
about,
know
right?
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
They're lined up there all day long. I got there one morning at 6:30. I had the place to myself, but so every person will get the exact same shot of them standing in front of the sign, but they love it. They love
Mm.
it, and, everybody knows it, and, so I think it's okay. As long as they're I've seen stories about, Santorini Island in
Yeah.
Greece, and they all want that one sunset spot. That sounds a little oppressive, but that's fine, so then charge admission. If it's really out of hand, I think that in Venice, they started charging admission, but it was only €5 a day. Make it 100. I mean, if it's really out of whack, just jack up the rates until they work it out, but, even €100 to visit Venice would not stop me. I don't know about you.
So a friend of mine just came back from Lake Como in northern Italy, and there are lots of like famous villas and vistas and stuff, and they charge as much as 300 euros for I can't remember what you said, like a 10-minute slot that you can they could shoot at. And I mean, it's one way to generate income, I guess.
Yeah, or to weed out the tourists.
Oh,
Make it,
yeah. That's the see. This is the thing I never understood about London. So London has a weird policy, whereby um, some of the most well-known landmarks, especially modern landmarks, like some of the modern skyscrapers, like the Shard and the Walkie-Talkie and the Gherkin. For some reason, we give skyscrapers weird names over here. Um, they're landmarks, and of course, they're photographed a lot. But they're actually under copyright, and they're actually the areas and streets around them are private property. And so what happens is if you walk up with a smartphone, and you look like a tourist, you're perfectly fine. The minute you rock up with a decent camera, you've got security on your back straight away. And I was thinking like, well, this is weird because you're okay with crappy photos, but you prevent people from taking beautiful shots of your building. That doesn't make any sense.
The Las Vegas Neon Museum, which, yeah, I don't think you went to, has the old signs from the 1950s and 60s, and they turn them on at nighttime, and they're gorgeous, and they have a no camera rule, okay? So, this is fine.
Oh,
The
yeah.
phone is fine, but they have a no camera rule. The Sphere has a no camera rule,
Right.
if you can
Okay.
believe that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's nuts, and then the Eiffel Tower is trademarked
Yeah.
at nighttime when they flash the lights, though I don't think they ever give anybody a hard time. The Hollywood sign in Los Angeles is also trademarked,
Oh, I
believe
didn't
it or
know that.
not. Yeah,
That's wild.
yeah.
Yeah. The thing about London is very it's very, I mean, okay, it does get very busy, especially during the main sort of touristy times of the year. But they have a complete no tripod rule, so you can't use a tripod anywhere, unless, of course, you use a platypod. Now, this episode just so happens to be sponsored by Platypod, but that's not why I'm mentioning it. Of course, it's actually true that you can absolutely get away with a Platypod. So if you're in a situation where you can't actually carry an actual full size tripod with you, a Platypod might come in handy. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go in the description, check it out. Yeah, very useful tools.
Okay, when the security guard comes over to you at the Tate Museum or whatever, and you pull out your platypod and he wants to say, "No tripod," what words do you use to get around the tripod police?
Oh,
Says
so
there's only one leg? There's only one leg, so it's okay?
it's that exact thing has happened to me inside of St. Paul's. So I went to shoot. Actually made a video for Platypod where the point was to shoot the ceiling inside of St. Paul's, and St. Paul's is very strict, absolutely no tripods anywhere kind of rule, right? And so I made up this rig with like a super wide 14 to 24 millimeter lens. The camera was pointing to the ceiling on a Platypod Extreme, which is again for those of you who don't know what it is, it's basically like a little camera platform that allows you to basically attach your camera with a ball head, and you can get really interesting angles, and you can put it on the floor and so on. And so I placed that right in the middle, under the main domed roof in the main sort of space. And I had a remote control, and I started taking pictures. And then, of course, within seconds, I had a security guard, come over and give me the no tripod, kind of thing. And I said, well, it's not a tripod. And he was a little bit baffled, and he looked at it and I'm like, well, it's not, it's not a tripod. And he just went, oh yeah. What what is it? And I said, well, it's like, it just helps me to put my camera on the floor, so I don't have to just put it on the floor. And he goes like, oh, okay. Okay. Well, I guess it's not a tripod. I guess it's okay. And that was it. And he left me to shoot. Well, he basically said to me, just don't spend too much time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he let me shoot. Yeah.
A tripod has 3 legs. Try.
Exactly.
Try.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is not a tripod, it's one leg.
Exactly. You know, um, what is the most photographed place that you've visited, um, that still comes up with surprises?
Well, I did photograph the Louvre, that's probably the most photographed, right?
Yeah.
And what do you do to make that interesting is you photograph the crowd being crazy. So, that's how I dealt with the Louvre, and I didn't explore the entire place, though on this show, Hacks, it looked really great. They went to some places that I never went to. I've been to, La Sagrada in Barcelona, that's probably another one, and I just, there were people everywhere, and I just shut up. I did not have a platypod with me, but that's okay. They got really big ceilings, so I had no problem. So that was really interesting. Those are probably the 2 most, visited places, and like I said, at Grand Central Station,
Hmm.
right, in New York, though I did pull out a tripod there. I pulled out a selfie stick, which extends into a tripod, and I was able to get my shot before they came over to yell at me. So, well, usually, that my game is to get the shot as quickly as possible before they come running.
Yeah, just hit and run. It's usually
Yeah.
the way to do it. Now, did you mention earlier that you shoot the whole show with an iPhone?
The whole show's done on iPhone, yeah. Mhm.
When
Let's just say 95%, I do a little GoPro and a little drone, but 95% is done on 2 iPhone 17 Pro Maxes.
when when did you first realize that like smartphones or the iPhone would just change everything?
The classic story is I'm in San Francisco shooting on my A7 IV 7200 millimeter lens in front of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And so I'm shooting solo. It's a 7200 millimeter lens. You can imagine where I'm standing to have the bridge behind me. Excuse me. As I'm saying, San Francisco is one of the most beautiful places in the world. Up drives a guy, grabs the tripod, grabs the camera, puts it in his car, and drives away with it.
Oh, wait.
No. So there goes $6,500.
Wow.
I made a decision there if I'm gonna shoot out in public like this, I'm just going to the iPhone, where I can be a lot closer to it, and I can grab it, and, that's just what the decision that I made. And once the words came out of my mouth that I'm shooting this show on the same camera that you have at home, a phone, that was it. I was doing it. And, I always wonder what would happen if I did an episode where the first half was done on an iPhone and the second half was done on an A7 IV, or vice versa, or intercut. Would anybody know? Now, you would know, but I don't think the mass audiences would know. And the people at Scripps, I've asked, and they said nobody would know. So,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing.
And it's true, and nobody will really, unless you like really pixel peeping, you just won't notice. I use an iPhone quite a lot especially when I make platypus videos, for example. I use it for B-roll or things, or when I'm out and about, it's just easier. Um, you know, it's perfect.
2 little quick stories. First of all, I was in Monument Valley, Arizona, which has these 3 mountains,
Mhm.
and it's one of the most beautiful places in the world, and I was shooting on the Sony, on the A7 IV, again, 7200 millimeter lens, and I had the flip screen so that I could see myself. What I couldn't see, because I'm standing on the other side, is the lens going, and an entire 10-minute segment was out of focus.
Yeah.
So, that's one thing I don't experience on the iPhone, and then some of my cinematic shots in the cinematic mode look really good, and they didn't look good in 2014 or whenever it came out, when they first started doing it.
Mm.
Um, what was it? It was on the iPhone 14, so it was not 2014, so it was about 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
They've come a long way, and the quality is really good. So
Yeah, they've come a massive distance. Do you think photographers originally really underestimated smartphones as such?
Well, the quality was crappy in the beginning, and, "Oh, it's just a cell phone camera. Oh, it's just a cell phone camera," because that's what it was, but it just got better and better every year as the iPhone gets better every year. You know, I've reviewed and I've owned every iPhone since iPhone 1, the iPhone, right? And the 17 Pro Max is the best one they've ever come out with, period. There's no I would not wanna shoot on the 16 or a 15. I'd only wanna shoot on the 17 Pro because it's so much better. The selfie camera, which got expanded and gave you a wider point of view and higher resolution, made a big difference for somebody like me that shoots solo videos where I could actually see what I'm doing, frame it, right, stand right in front of it, and use that because before I couldn't use it because I couldn't use anything that was done on the selfie camera because the video quality was really poor.
Have you ever tried shooting on, say, an Osmo, for example?
I have the biggest problem that I have with any of these cameras, is the walking shot. When you're walking down the street and you're going up and down and up and down and you see the camera moving up and down, and my hope was with the Osmo, that wasn't gonna happen. Well, it happens, and I've watched people with their Osmo videos, and they're going up and down and up and down and up and down. So, for my purposes, for a mass audience, when I'm saying you don't have to go out and buy any extra camera gear, it makes more sense for me to be showing off what you could do with the phone that they have as opposed to dedicated, you have to go out and spend $700 for this camera. That's very hard to get. Yeah. And
Yeah.
still bounces up and down.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, looking back, what predictions were people getting completely wrong about how iPhones or how smartphones would develop in terms of, photography and video?
Well, I don't think that people imagined that it would be as versatile lens-wise with, 13 millimeter, 24 millimeter, 40, 48, and 70 and 200. I don't think we saw any of that. Now, I will also say that the 1X lens is the sharpest, brightest, best quality lens that they were still distorted on the 13 millimeter most of the time, and that the telephoto is hit and miss. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, and you don't know until you get home and you look at the footage. But, if you're actually just gonna shoot on 1X, you're gonna be in great shape, which is probably what we should all do, but we don't.
And there are lots of like add-on lenses that you can get for it. In fact,
Yeah, but the
yeah.
The eh, if you get the add-on lens, it's another thing, and you have to get a dedicated case, and you have to walk around with the lens, and you have to remember, and then it might be a lens mount, and you have to put all these things that are gonna be in your bag, in your pocket, that you're not gonna walk around with. I haven't seen any that really dramatically improve the image. I think the reflex lenses are pretty good, but they're a lot of work to get on there.
And I think that's
Have you
all.
tried the new 3 have you tried the 300 to 600 millimeter one from
No,
Reflex?
I've only have some experience with the reflex macro lenses, which I really quite like. Mainly, so my daughter does some iPhone macro stuff, and she likes it because mainly because of working distance. You can get more working distance between the subject and the camera, and so you can do things like create bubbles and whatever stuff she does. So I think she likes it for that. I don't know. I don't know that it dramatically improves the image quality optically necessarily. But that's really the only, and I've never tried the telephoto lenses.
Yeah, I mean, they're okay, but, they go over the 1X, and so you've got a 24 millimeter that is now a 70. Well, you already had that on there, and it doesn't look that much better, but it's a lot of work to get it to do it.
Was there a moment when you thought like traditional cameras were really in trouble now?
I think they're actually doing better than I expected. I still see a lot of people out there holding their cameras because they love holding their cameras. They love going around with their cameras. They love buying lenses. They love switching lenses and doing all those things. Now I don't have the financials of Nikon and Sony and Canon. I don't know how, but we're certainly seeing more cameras than you would expect considering that 2 billion people are holding smartphones in their hands.
Yeah. I mean, there is a thing, and I've sort of experienced that myself, I would say, like, the best camera is the camera you've got on you, you know, to start with. Um, and I think I had a light bulb moment years ago when, um, I think when my kids were still relatively young, and I remember, we take them out, um, we just take them out on a trip, like a family trip. And I remember taking my camera with me. Oop, that's my wife texting me.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember talk with the devil, as they say. And I remember, we went out on like family trips, and I remember taking my cameras with me, or at least one camera with me, and maybe a couple of lenses, because you got to. Um, and I remember coming back from those trips having hardly taken any photos, you know, um, because the barrier between you stopping, taking your backpack down, opening your backpack, getting your camera out, attaching the lens, blah, 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 blah. By the time you've done all of that, usually the moment's gone. And the next time you think, oh, this might make a good photo, you're going through this evaluation process almost, is it really worth, stopping there? And so you end up actually taking surprisingly few photos. And that's when I changed to using my iPhone as a just a general day-to-day camera, you know, and
Yeah.
especially to record things like family occasions. It's just the best thing. I would never take as many pictures, if it wasn't.
Yeah, I've been there on travel, and I packed the cameras, and they never got used, maybe once or twice, and it just wasn't worth it. I also remember walking around with my big video camera. Do you go back those days?
Oh
And
yeah.
they were beautiful. They were beautiful. They made a nice camera with the zoom that came in and out,
Yeah.
and, but, I definitely prefer having photos and videos in one device. It makes it a lot easier. It's one reason that I don't use the Blackmagic app as much as I should, even though it's higher quality and has more controls. I can't shoot photos in it, and, I've
Yeah.
gotta shoot photos and videos simultaneously. Even, think about this on the Apple app. You could actually do it on Samsung as well, that there's, once you start recording video, there's a white button that comes up, and you can start, snapping photos while you're shooting your video clips.
Yeah.
That makes it a nice thing to have.
Absolutely. I used to, well, I still make podcast episodes at trade shows like the photography show in London, or Imaging USA, and things, places like that. And what I used to do is I used to have a DJI Ronin, and a Nikon, and a 24 to 70 lens, and a microphone, like a mic setup, and all the rest of it. And I used to basically shoot the whole show like that. And what I typically do is I go around and interview people at the show, and you know uh, create an episode for people so they can see what's going on, even if they can't travel to a show like that themselves. Is it, carrying a fairly sizable rig with you all day for like over 4 days or something? I felt like I needed to work out, and it was only last year when, actually no, it was this year at Imaging in Nashville, when I had just bought a DJI Osmo, and I I had all my gear with me. And on the first day, I thought, okay, I'm going to leave all my camera gear in the hotel room, and I'm going to go to the expo floor, and I'm going to see if I just going to see how I get on just with the Osmo, right? And that means, recording interviews, recording B-roll, all that kind of stuff. And I came back, and because I thought, like, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to the hotel room, grab my camera, and do it the way I've always done it. And I gotta say, it was fantastic.
I'll
You
bet.
know,
And you had 2 DJI mics, and every time you interviewed somebody, you just put it on their lapel?
No, even easier. I do the roving reporter things. I have like a microphone stick, and I just do what they used to do back in the olden days. Then I don't
Mm.
even have to mic somebody up, because that's another thing. I mean, there's actually two issues. One is the edit part, which when you have two mics, it makes it harder. But also the reality is it's just quicker. I've got that mic in my hand. I meet somebody who I want to talk to. There's no big setup. It's not complicated. It's just boom, and we'll do a quick interview. And yeah, it feels more
So
natural.
you so you so you hold the Osmo in one hand and hold the microphone in the other?
So I do
Okay.
2 things. Well, okay, so no, I don't do that, but what I typically do is I either have a little tripod, like a travel tripod that I use, which is very light, it's like a carbon fiber or whatever, that doesn't weigh anything, it can easily take it around, or I often have, somebody with me who will actually do the filming, so somebody will just hold the Osmo, for example, and that's usually because I usually meet people, and then you hang out, and then, people are especially if they've been on a show before or something, it's quite easy to get people to let's put it this way, people often want to help out a little bit, so that's what I found. So it's relatively easy to do, that way, and it's definitely it's such a difference from, being used to logging a massive rig around with you all the time. And
Yeah.
the quality is mind-blowing. It's really, really good, you know? And it's so good straight out of right out of the box that I virtually have to do nothing to the video file. I don't have to color grade it because it already looks great. There's really not a lot I have to do to it, compared to, shooting
Just
with
that just cut it. Just cut it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just cut it. And of course, because in this case, the DJI mic, the wireless mic automatically syncs, or connects to the Osmo via Bluetooth. I don't even have to worry about any of that. It's the sound is great, it's baked in. I do, you know, obviously I work on the audio a little
So
bit.
do you put the little DJI mic on a stand, or do you went out and bought a dedicated mic that connects to the DJI mic?
No, so basically the Osmo, I think it's the creator pack or something. It comes with the DJI wireless mic, and I have, which is originally a Rode mic stick. It's just a plastic stick, essentially.
Right, okay. So I have
Yeah,
the same thing, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And the funny thing
You
about
just
that is
snap it on there, and then you put a little ball over it.
exactly, and it's because of the way that it's shaped on the top, it actually fits all sorts of brands of mics. It doesn't have to necessarily be a Rode mic. Then you just put the foam on top, and that's it. And it's super easy. So really, all I'm carrying is that little Osmo and that mic stick that doesn't weigh anything, you know, and that's it.
Yeah. Well,
So
in my case, it would be an iPhone on a selfie stick
mhm,
with one hand, and
yeah,
then I would just I use the Rode mics, the wireless. I would
yes,
just be putting them on people's lapels, but that's just me, so
yeah. I do have the Rode mics as well. I do like them. I have used them with the iPhone actually. They're great for that. Yeah, it's. I mean, whatever makes life easier for you. I think that's the beauty about all this technology to me is that it's just enabled us as video creators, for example, or photographers. It's just enabled us to do so much more with so much more ease. And because it's easier, I can do more. So I can shoot more B-roll. I can create more stuff. Because it's just that easy.
yeah, I mean, for me, I walk into these, places on the road, and I say, "Hey, I'm a YouTuber, I wanna interview you," and they go, Interview you?" Yeah, I say, "Yeah, here, let me put the mic on you," and then
Yeah,
we're doing it. It's just
yeah,
that fast.
exactly.
Where before, I pull out the camera, take the lens cap off, set it up, do I have sound? All these things, and, put a little, wire up their body, and then snap something up here. Yeah. It's just a hell of a lot easier,
It's
and
so much easier.
they don't get, what's the word? It used to be that the black camera would make them all weird, but, little iPhone, they're you just used to it, and so it makes it easier for me.
I mean, you've covered that technology, um, for so many years. What were the changes that surprised you the most?
The iPhone happened so fast because I remember the Treo, the Palm Treo and the
Oh yeah,
BlackBerry, and people swore by those, and I actually caught my email on a Sprint phone. I had a Sprint, flip phone, and could read my email on it. It just happened so fast and got so widespread so quickly. I didn't think it would happen as fast as it did, and it sure did, and, between 2007 and by 2010, uh, yeah. I mean, I started a show, at USA Today in 2010 called Talking Tech, and it was a weekly show, a weekly video show talking to people about the changes in technology, and we were able to do that, I mean, sort of that early, and, they told me at the time their dream was that I would do it daily, And I said, "I don't know how I could. I mean, it just would be impossible. Not today, it'd be really easy. I could do 3 times a day, you know? But back then, it was hard."
Yeah, and I remember that very well. I remember, I think it must have been about 2000. Oh, actually, yeah, 2007, 2000, something like that, around about that time. I think just before the original iPhone came out, I went to see some friends in San Francisco, and my friend had a BlackBerry, I believe it was, and he could read his emails on there. And I was like,
Yeah,
"Whoa, really? You can like what? You can read your emails in the car? Like how do you do that? You know?" That was that already was unbelievable. And now, of course, nobody knows. Nobody younger, nobody under the age of 45 knows what a BlackBerry actually is. You know?
right. I remember I was photographing at a party, and, one of the people at the party kept taking pictures on a BlackBerry. It's like, "Why are you doing this?" "You're insane. The pictures are gonna be horrendous." But but it was the best camera, it was the one in your pocket, and I might as well just use it and get something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly it. It's better to have a photo that's out of focus than to have no photo at all. You know, that's basically that's the thing. Now, I mean, of course,
Right.
now we have AI knocking on the door. Well, it's not really knocking on the door anymore. It's all the way through the door by now. Um, do you think AI is that the next sort of smartphone moment?
Oh, well, AI editing, uh we'll see how widespread it's gonna be with Apple, and
Mm,
whether people usually, Apple lets everybody else develop something, and then, they bring it out to the masses as if they learned it. So we'll see what happens with the new Siri app. Um, I don't know. I don't hear of a lot of people using the cleanup tool, to erase things, and I think they just don't know. The question is, will they know? I think the tools are really hard not to be using because even if I'm opposed to them, I'm gonna use them, you know? I do the cleanup tool, I'll probably reframe. I take power lines out of every photo that I do, and I just can't stop using them. How about you?
I well, yes. I mean, professionally, of course, I use them all the time. Because that's the expectation. Um, and in a commercial world, time is money. So if I spend because I'm still going to be doing the same thing. Like you talk about power lines, for example. I'll still get rid of the power lines, whether I use the traditional Photoshop method, you know, or whether I use AI to do it. If I use Photoshop, it takes me 5 minutes. If I use AI, it takes me no minutes. That's the
Yeah, so yesterday I did the, Photoshop where you put the lasso around the power lines and you
Mhm.
go to generative fill, but it didn't work. So I said, "Okay, fine." I went to Google Gemini, I uploaded the picture, I said, "Take out the power lines," and they were taken out,
Yeah,
and it was great.
yeah,
Now the
absolutely.
only problem is sometimes they change the photo. They will change the photo, and, I asked them to do a photo of I s create something where I'm standing in front of this mural, and they did, but they took 50 pounds off my body, and I said, "Well, I look a little thin there." So then I was really fat, and I said, "No, you went too far." Then they changed me into somebody else, and, yeah, if you don't get it on the first time, forget it.
So it's a funny thing. A friend of mine designed a poster the other day, and she asked me for a photo that I shot at a classical concert. It was a choir, right? Um, and so she asked me for that photo that she wanted to use for this poster. I sent it to her. She used, I believe it was Chat GPT or something, to create this flyer or poster that she was making. And you know, at first sight, the flyer looked great, the text looked great, the design was really cool, blah blah blah. But then when I zoomed in, I'm like, Carolyn, all the faces look like weird alien zombies. Like, what happened there? And that's of course exactly what happened. She's just uploaded that picture into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT, whatever it did to it, but turned all the faces into these weird looking. Um, I mean, they were human in a sense. There were two eyes and a nose and a mouth. But when you zoomed in, they were like, "Whoa, this is the freakiest." That's the freakiest choir I've ever seen. What planet are they from?
Yeah.
You know? And that's
Well, that's why
surprising.
I always do second opinions.
Mm.
So if ChatGPT messes it up, I go to Gemini and vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is wild. I remember when, so when AI first and it was what was it? I can't remember now. It seems like there's so much that's happened since then. Um,
It's
but I
about 2
remember
years.
yeah, exactly. It's actually not that long. But I remember when it first occurred, I did an episode on it, and I had, an AI expert on the show. This was August. And we were talking about this incredible ability to use text prompts to turn them into images, and it's like, this is wild. Of course, it was in its infancy still, but it was available. And it was crazy at the time. And I remember I did a test like where I took a picture of myself uh, as a lumberjack, okay, and I wanted to turn myself into a pirate just using AI prompts, okay, and the end result was, well, it it was comical because certain things worked really well and other aspects really didn't work at all, like there were things like where I was putting a treasure chest by my feet and some like gold doubloons or pieces of eight or whatever on the floor, and that looked really photorealistic. It was actually excellent. But when I asked it to put a treasure map in the background, it looked like it was terrible, because do you remember back in those days, it had a real problem with symbols and letters and text and things like that. And
Right, letters. It would always misspell things. Well,
yeah,
it's way better now. But
exactly, yeah,
but everybody's using it, so that everything looks the same. That's the only problem. It's a lot really easy to make, but everybody's doing the same thing.
exactly,
It's like what happens when Apple comes out with a new tool and everybody uses it, and you say, "Oh, that's nice," and then you see it everywhere, and you say, "I can't use it anymore."
yeah. Do you think we're entering sort of a post-camera world with AI? Because AI is A, it's here to stay, and B, it's getting better and better and better.
It's more of a post-art world, I think,
Mm.
than a post-camera world. You still need to take the picture. I don't think you could say, create a picture of Jeff and Kirsten together on a podcast and get anything that's gonna look very good without
What the
without having a reference picture
Yeah,
to guide them.
yeah. It's actually worth a try. I'm just thinking about it. That'd be fun. Um, it is there anything that excites you about AI?
If I had it create a press release for me on the show. In 1 second, it was a perfect press release. Now that you and then you start digging at it, not so perfect, but, I mean, they did a really good job. So, little things, I like putting in my, transcripts of my YouTube videos and saying, "Create a description and a title and chapter markers." That's great. That's a big savings. That helps me a lot. I used to sit there and have to watch the episode in real time. Little things like that.
I will neither confirm nor deny as to whether I do the same thing.
Mm. It helps AI know a lot more about you, I'll tell you that.
Oh,
They know every episode I've done. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, actually, I had, this is interesting. I just copied the RSS feed of the podcast into ChatGPT the other day, because typically what I do is at the end of an episode, I usually recommend another episode that I think would be useful for viewers to view. And I just couldn't think of anything, or I was too tired, or maybe I had too many whiskeys. I can't remember. But I basically copied the RSS feed into ChatGPT. It analyzed all the episodes and came up with the perfect suggestion that really linked into the episode that I just recorded. I'm like, wow, that's
Yeah.
wild, you know? Yeah, because it analyzes the whole thing in 2 seconds.
It's also interesting to see, like, I did a transcript yesterday to see what they picked out and what was really interesting. And again, it was 2 opinions, and they were both the same,
Yeah,
ChatGPT and Gemini. So
right.
it helps to figure out what's gonna resonate with people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting thing. Is there what worries you the most when it comes to AI, or is there anything that you get worried about?
Well, they're gonna put writers out of work, if they can write a press release that well.
Mm,
Though I do think the humans will always be better, but, a lot of people are gonna lose jobs.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I always, especially when it comes to copywriters, that's, I have the same feeling. I always think like, well, I'm pretty sure an actual professional copywriter could do a better job, but I couldn't, and I need it like yesterday, and that's
Yeah.
kind of that's how that works. Um, do you think photography will become more or less creative?
I think photographers will become more creative because when you look at Facebook and you look at everybody's vacation photos, they all look the same. So you're gonna be forced to to work a little harder to make your things look different and unusual and pop. I really do.
Yeah. Um, I mean, that's an interesting thought because you can either get better at prompting, you know, prompting your AI, or you can get better at actual photography. What skills um do you think will still matter in like 10 years from now?
Composition, lighting, framing, it'll still be a big deal. So I'm off to Alaska on Sunday morning, and that's where I'm doing my next episode. And today's all about charging up the gear. Those two phones, I got to charge those up and charge up a GoPro. I'll be bringing the Insta360 camera. Got the drone being charged up now, and and then my light. I got to charge that up and make sure they all fit in the backpack. What do you think?
That's the most
And I
amazing
guess
thing.
bring a platypod too.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Yes.
I don't think there's gonna be tripod police in Juneau, Alaska.
Yeah, probably not. Or maybe some bear, but well, you never know. It's probably easier on the wildlife, I suppose. All right, Jeff. To finish up, I always do a lightning round. Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
right. So I got 6 questions. You ready?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay, cool. One camera for the rest of your life. What would it be?
Well, it's the iPhone 17 Pro until I get the 18.
Cool. Oh, and that actually covers the next question. One smartphone for the rest of your life. You've just answered that.
Same thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, what do you think is the most overrated photography destination?
Phew. Well, I haven't been to some of those places that I've read about that are being overrun, like the tiger facilities in India and Croatia and Greece. I'd love to go. I could tell you that I went to Barcelona where, after I left, they were using squirt guns to squirt at the tourists because they were so mad at them for being there. And
Yeah.
we had a great time in Barcelona. There's this one block that's really crowded. It's called the Rambles. You could have a great time in Barcelona on all the other side streets. So, as anywhere where it's being overrun, just go across the street and go down the side street, and it's probably
Mm.
nowhere as bad.
What do you think is the most underrated photography destination?
Oh, let's see. Oh, some of the places that I've been to, like Evansville, Indiana, and Bakersfield, California, that people just don't go to, that are gorgeous. I just come back from the Midwest, and they have some of the best Midwest of United States,
Mm.
some of the best architecture, uh, and underrated. Most people, it's flyover country. They don't tend to go there, and I'm just knocked out by some of the beautiful old buildings that have been preserved.
Um, what is the favorite, or what is your favorite photograph that you've ever taken?
Oh, I wish I knew. It's whatever I shot yesterday. Um, I'll have to think about that. I just don't ha It's probably one of, that I shot locally of the Manhattan Beach Pier, which is a beautiful pier that we have in this little town that I live in. So I'll pick that at sunset, right time, beautiful colors in November. That's when we have the best sunsets of the year.
What is a photographer that you think everyone should study?
Let's go for Dr. Brown. Okay, he really puts in a lot of work on his pictures and does amazing stuff. Dr. Russell Preston Brown, if I
Yes,
recall right.
Russell Preston Brown.
Wor Right, works at Adobe, best iPhone photographer in the world, and he's
Absolutely.
amazing.
And of course, he's been on the show several times. So if you are curious, just go into the
Yeah.
go into
We'll
that's
twirl the mustache, right.
yeah, absolutely. Just have a look at the archive, and you'll find a number of episodes featuring Russell. It's absolutely phenomenal. I had the pleasure of shooting with him last year, and it was so much fun. And it's just great to see a master at work as always. That's the thing. Um, what would be your one piece of advice for new photographers?
Oh, okay, I'll give the standard. Scott Kelby said the same thing when I asked him, okay? The phone is in our pocket. The phone is filthy. The lenses are filthy. Um, Clean your lens. Bring a cloth with you. Clean your lens. The number one reason that your pictures suck is because you have a dirty lens. I mean, it sounds so simple. It sounds so easy. Bring a cloth with you and clean the lens before every shoot. How's that?
That's perfect. One final question: if
Yes.
if a young photographer is listening to this right now and wondering whether they need a better camera, what would you tell them?
Use the camera that you have and become better with it. Unless the lens is cracked, unless you know, it's so onerous, try to master what you have and see what you could do better. New gear is fun to buy. I love it too. I just bought a new computer, even though I didn't need one, but I bought one anyway. And you know, but if you're interested in becoming a better photographer, use what you have and, show up at the right time. Go out in the morning, go out later in the evening. If you have a lens that's a 5.6 or something and it won't let you go any higher, I understand. You want another lens. The camera manufacturers were selling cameras, basically a garbage lens, a medium lens at more expensive, and then a great lens. And when you get the great lens, you'll really see the difference. My 7200 2.8 is a lot different than using a lens that with a 5.6. I understand that, but I think it depends. If you can get through your gear, see what you could do with it, and if not, go spend some money because it's fun to do.
Fantastic, Jeff. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for being the guest on the Camera Shake podcast this week.
Thank you as well. Have a great time.
Okay, folks, that is it for today. A huge thank you to Jefferson Graham for joining me and sharing his thoughts on smartphone photography, travel photography, visual storytelling, and the future of photography itself. As always, before we go, let me just recommend another episode that I think you'll enjoy. If today's conversation got you thinking about smartphones, artificial intelligence, and the future of photography, then make sure you check out episode 268. Of the Camera Shake podcast, where we ask, are cameras becoming obsolete? With none other than Vanelli himself. In that episode, our photographer, educator, and industry veteran Vanelli shares his thoughts on how technology is changing photography and what photographers need to do to stay relevant in an ever evolving industry. It's a fascinating conversation and a perfect companion to today's episode. If you'd like to help support the show, please consider buying us a coffee over at buymeacoffee.com/CameraShake, because you know how much I like coffee. You can also check out our official Camera Shake merchandise using the links in the description over at camerashakepodcast.com. And if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, remember, there's also a video version available on YouTube in full Technicolor. And if you're already watching on YouTube, please do us a favor, hit like, comment, and subscribe. So thank you very much for joining us. A new episode drops every Thursday, as you know. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, keep shaking things up in the world of photography, and I'll see you next Thursday.